Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Segan Maddox. So I'd like a show of hands just to know who is not here with Model N. All right, so we'll move to this side of the room. And since we have a small group, so could you guys tell me which companies you represent really quickly? Let's start and go left to right. ASI. Okay. Iliad. Stelis. You're supposed to be on that side of the room. Oops. And then the next question that I want to ask is, today, are you guys using any SaaS-based or cloud-based solutions? Yes. Okay. And for those who are using it, have you had positive or negative experiences? Yes. Uh-oh. Okay. And then my last question is, anyone on this side of the room in IT? Oh, all right. So you'll see certain slides, okay? I work in IT too. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. So again, my name is Segan Maddox. I'm the Director of Cloud Operations for Model N. I've been with Model N for 2 years now, and over those past 2 years, we've been adding customers to our cloud solution, continuing to build them out and help them grow their business. So we're going to start off with the case for cloud. For those who are in IT, I'm sure you have a lot of background building these cases. I just want to give a different take on how to think about cloud. A lot of times people say, oh, you're going to save a ton of money, or you don't have to buy hardware, or it's a lot of things that come into play when that conversation happens. I tried to twist it a little bit. So let's go there. So the case for cloud, we're going to talk about how fast technology travels. We're going to do a little comparison to see what's the real difference between a mechanic and somebody in IT. We'll talk about those things that they do, and ask the real question, can your team really do it all? So just a few quick things to think about when we talk about technology. Combustion engines, everybody has a car and it fires up, and electric is very quickly evolving and trying to take that place. If we look at computer technology, there used to be spinning disks, and that was great, and everybody was happy and buying tons of them, and now there's SSD drives, and way faster. Let's go back to driving. I mean, how many times do you drive someplace and not think about it because you have a navigation system? So it's a lot less to argue about when you're taking a trip. You don't have to pull out a map anymore. Computing again. CPUs, everybody's used to, oh, I have a CPU, and you take a look at a CPU today, and it's 4 cores, 8 cores, 12 cores, 16 cores. It's just accelerating just extremely fast. Again, back to my mechanic, regular tires, now you have run flat tires, which to me doesn't make sense, but if they run when they're flat, then they're not flat, but it's another story. I can remember my first dial-up system and how great it was, and you heard all these weird sounds and thought you were high tech, and then, you have a system that's online all the time, everywhere, super fast. So technology, this is all intended to prove that technology moves at a very fast pace. And if we look at 20 years ago and how quickly things moved, and we look at the past 5 years and how quickly technology has moved from the past 5 years to today, it's incredible. And if we look at today and just imagine what's going to happen in the next few years, it's even more incredible. And that means that technology is becoming more sophisticated, more complicated. It's not as though the technology is just trivial and simple, right? When I worked on a car, I had a bunch of belts, I had a bunch of parts. Now I got computer systems in my car. I can't go work on my car. I don't even know what to do. All I know how to do is put in gas and press the pedal, and that's about it. So they're not that different. Mechanics, IT folks aren't that different. So they both replace failing components. If you have a part in your car that doesn't work, somebody can fix it. If you have a part in your computer that doesn't work, they can put in a new part. They do the same thing when they tell you it's almost fixed. I have people that call me today and they say, is it done yet? And I tell them it's almost fixed. If you call your auto mechanic up and say, is my car ready? Probably tell you the same thing, it's almost fixed. We also both applied duct tape where appropriate to keep things working. So check your car. That new part you got that costs $200, it might just be a little bit of duct tape. The same way in IT, we put patches on things. Things don't work right, we don't necessarily go through a process of redoing it the way it needs to be done. We put a patch on it to make it work temporarily to get us through. And lastly, I think that both fields can leave you a bit dumbfounded after something gets resolved. They leave you with a big price tag and you don't necessarily know what was done. So when we think about roles and we think about teams, so if I own a vehicle, I need a team of mechanics to maintain my vehicle. I need people that can deal with my tires, changing my oil, my engine, whatever the case be. I need people that can do that. And it's not just one person. If I go to the tire shop, I don't want that guy working on my nav system. If I go to get my nav system updated, I don't want that guy necessarily working on my muffler. I'm going to go to different people to get what I need done. IT is pretty much the same way. I think that there are a lot of people that believe if you have a person in your IT group, it doesn't matter what the technology is. They can figure it out, they can manage it, they can make it work. That's not always going to be the case. If we look at technology today, you have very sophisticated technologies when it comes to virtualization, when it comes to operating systems, when it comes to storage, when it comes to security. It's all very complex stuff. So if you have a guy that walks in your shop and says, hey, I can do it all, even if they could do it all, you don't even want them to do it all. You want to make sure that you divide those responsibilities up at any rate. So when we talk about technology, if you need to bring a new application into your environment, and somebody goes to the IT team and says, hey, we want to go out and buy this new application, we want to bring it in-house, it's going to make us a lot of money, it's going to save us a lot of money, it's going to make us more productive, can we do it? And I think that in most cases, those groups are going to say yes. And it's going to be followed by some caveat. And that first yes is going to be, yeah, I can do it if you let me hire some more people. Because you may need a specific skill set. You may be already fully occupied in terms of projects that you're working on and need more people. And then the second answer would be yes, if I can send somebody on my team off to training. Because even though they understand the underlying technologies, they may not understand the complete technology of what it is that you're going to implement. So I think that there was a time where it made sense to hire more people, where it made more sense to send people off to training. But I think that's when we were dealing with technologies that weren't quite as sophisticated as what we deal with today, especially when we look at enterprise level solutions. So this is the area where I say, the users have changed. They're not low-tech users anymore. They're what I call techno users. They know what they're actually doing. Application logic has drastically changed. We're using more technologies to develop on, more platforms to develop on. And years ago it made sense. You had private networks. All of your applications had to stay in-house. You didn't have the performance that you had externally. And I realize this is within the past 10 years, but the point is that these things have changed drastically. So when you think about who works on your car, when you think about who works on your computer system, does it really matter? And I'd like to argue that it absolutely does. That if you have someone who understands how engines work and they say, oh, I've been working on engines for 5 years, does it mean that they can maintain the entire vehicle? Are they, do they have some special knowledge about the things that they need to do, but do they have an overall enough special knowledge about how to maintain that vehicle? And the same thing with technology. You can have someone that says, hey, I'm a great DBA, I know databases inside out. And you say to them, well, hey, can you maintain my enterprise level application? And say, oh yeah, sure I can. But do they really have that overall skill to be able to do that? Do they really have that overall knowledge to do that? And my favorite part, just to close this out as you think about a case for being on a cloud solution or actually deciding to bring that internally, is that if I'm going to go out and spend a ton of money on a car, am I going to go to my local neighborhood mechanic? Am I going to go to a Honda mechanic? Or am I going to go to the person that makes that car and maintains that car? So I'm going to pause there and just say, does anyone have any questions? Because the stuff that I get into next, if you didn't think this was entertaining, it just kind of goes downhill. Okay. So what I'll talk about, and I'll go through this pretty quickly, is the model in cloud to give you a sense of what it is today. So the model in cloud is a combination of the applications that we build, the infrastructure and systems that the applications run on, the management and support of that overall environment, the service level commitments that we make in terms of delivering the application and the service, and then it comes with the model and experience. Today, these are the applications that currently are running in the cloud. So last year at RAINMAKER, the question was asked to me, is there a restriction on what you can run in the cloud? I said, as long as it's a model and application, we can run it. So we are running a number of applications on both the life sciences and high-tech platforms, as well as Impact. What are the cloud services that are offered? So if you decide on your way out to come forward and hand me a check, these are the things that I'll make sure my team does for you. We monitor the system 24/7. We have security tools in place to monitor the network, to monitor the systems, to see if anyone's trying to do anything that we don't expect them to do. Data protection, so on-site and off-site backups. Performance monitoring. So we have tools in place that allow us to see what our users' actual performance times in and out of the application. So some of the exciting stuff. Restricted access. So today, if you decide that you want to be a cloud customer, but you don't want your application fully exposed to the internet, there's two options that we have for that. One option is we can implement site-to-site VPN connection so that only users that log into your network can access the application. We can also implement access control lists so that you could decide if you have multiple networks, you can only permit people from those networks to access the application. Common thing that we do is database refreshes. So there's something that's taking place in production that you want to reproduce in staging. There may be an upgrade planned and you want to do testing. So we'll move those databases back and forth between the environment. And then we also do offer disaster recovery. So disaster recovery, if an SLA is required, is a paid option. Disaster recovery outside of that is included in the package. Is it a hot data center? That's the first time I've heard that. I've heard hot, I've heard data center. I've never heard hot data center together. So we have two data centers today. We have a data center located in Missouri. We also have a data center located in Texas. The Missouri data center is our primary data center where all of the production activity happens, and then our secondary data center is located in Texas, and that's where we do our staging environments and disaster recovery. Keep going. So if you purchase the disaster recovery option, we're replicating the customer databases between both the sites so that worst case scenario, you would lose 1 hour of data entry activity. And then we have SLAs for the actual recovery times. So the way to think about this is that the model and application is not a website where you can just say, oh, if this site is down, you go to that site. There's transactions, there's things happening in the application. So before you fell over, you actually do check the state of the database. Any other questions here? Exciting stuff, right? Imagine what cloud could be for you. No more budgetary surprises, no more hardware refreshes, no more change control meetings. So if you have to go to a change control meeting and spend an hour in there talking about modeling changes, it goes away. No more conference calls with multiple vendors. So if you have a Cisco environment, and you have a server, and you have an application, and something breaks, and you're trying to get all these people on the phone to figure it out, you don't have to do that anymore. No more negotiating with software vendors. If you're tired of how much money you pay to your software vendors, you don't have to go through that anymore. You don't have to negotiate that anymore. And no more knowledge transfers due to attrition. So people always look for a better opportunity, and when they do, you have to retrain, you have to regrow that group. So you don't have to do that anymore.
How do you remove the change control?
How?
Yeah, like what? I mean, I'm just thinking from an audit standpoint. My company's still going to have. How did you test it? How did it go into production, even though it's being managed by a third party?
So let me be specific. So if you're managing the system day to day, I'm under the impression that there are changes that occur day to day as the natural maintenance of the system. I'm not talking about actual upgrades to the application, right? So you have to do OS patches, you have to.
Functionality or anything like that. You're talking about the daily patches.
Exactly. And then last but not all, and this is my favorite one, is no more wishing you had moved your application to the Model N Cloud. And I've heard that twice, so I find that to be a very important point. And then what I want to talk about last is, this has been we've been live with customers in this environment for the past 2 years. This concept was thought up about 4.5 years ago. And, we have made progress since last year, and we're going to continue to enhance the environment and make it better. But I did want to go over some of the things that we have done to make it better. So last year we migrated from a less than perfect database implementation to a rack clustered environment. We did upgrade storage for our database machines from the old school spindles to SSD drives. We've improved application server configurations. So to me, this is an important point here. One of the things that my team is responsible to do is not to just monitor the systems and make sure they run, it's to also look at the data and see, hey, is there any opportunity to tune, to tweak, to make this better than what it would be normally out of the box? And so over the past year, we've been doing a lot of tuning to make sure that the performance of the servers is actually as optimal as they can be based on what we've seen in terms of the application behavior. So a lot of Java tuning that's been done in terms of those settings. And then impact is an area that we've made a pretty big investment so that everyone can start signing up and using impact. Dan, you should love hearing that. But we had kind of an implementation that was there to support what people wanted to do, and what we've decided is to, hey, let's make a larger investment and get that environment ready because this is a hot product and people are getting excited about it. We've added tools to the environment. We had other tools, they were okay. We've added newer tools that give us more visibility. In this particular instance, we can take a look at transactions that are slow. And then when we look at transactions, we can break it down by database activity, web activity, application activity. And what that does for us is we can trend over time how well it's performing, and then we can also pinpoint and say, oh, this isn't really performing the way it needs to be performing. And my team can either tune that or we assign things over to product development to investigate. And I'm not going to go into all of these details unless someone's really interested. Again, a good snapshot of Java and what Java is doing inside the application. So if something's not right, we can see it, we can act on it, we can make it better. Improved error detection. So anybody that manages applications, finding when there's a real problem is tough. So we've made the investment to have tools that do most of that heavy work for us. So when I go in the morning, I pull up a bunch of screens, I look for red things. If nothing's red, I'm happy. If something's red, I ask people to go and fix it. And then we also did a SOC 1 Type 1 today, in November, and our SOC 1 Type 2 starts in April. Any questions?
I love the reporting aspect of this. Because first, we don't have time to do it in our own shop. So we go to the cloud. You also monitor the types of activities, the places people are going in the application, and things they're doing, report back to us.
So no is the first answer. Some of that stuff we can do though, but we don't do it as part of the service. But it is something that is a possibility, of course.
Yeah, because it speaks more to the business process, optimizing business process training, etc. And I think it's really valuable.
So one of the things so I agree with you completely. I would tell you that if you said, hey, as part of my monthly or quarterly meeting with support, I'd like to know who's in the system, how often they're in the system, I would say that they would certainly be able to put that in a report. But we don't, in terms of the operation side, we don't pay attention to specific users and their activity.
How many clients do you have using the cloud?
So I kind of can't tell you today. If you had asked me last week, I could tell you. And I'm not joking. So we had this S1 filing, and our lawyers and executives said that anything has to do with a number, can't technically say it. But if you had asked me about a week or two ago, I could have told you.
What would the number have been like?
What I will tell you is we do have a mix of life sciences and high-tech customers. And it's not one and then the rest, it's a mix. The data centers are owned by Layered Technologies. Layered Technologies, yes. Yes. You said hardened data centers, FEMA Class 1? All right.
How about, you have clients that are using like real-time pricing and immediate calls and those things?
We do have one customer today that's using real-time pricing, and what was the other?
Just saying, doing immediate calls back to
Yeah.
their systems.
Yeah, we have customers that are doing real-time pricing, and they're doing that over web services, and there's customers who are doing a few other things over web services as well.
So the traditional support model, you guys had a cloud hosting solution, very nice.
Yes.
There's probably some business analysts at my shop. Is there an IT component, a heavy IT component at my shop as well?
If you're saying if you're in the cloud, is there?
In the cloud, what's it look like normally for your customers?
So it depends. You know, so one of our customers, the way that the integration is done, very little interaction with our IT group, just very minimal. You know, once the integration work is complete and validated and working, there's very little back and forth between my team and an organization's IT group. There are still things that the IT organization is responsible to do with other data systems where they're sending data to us or other systems that they have in the application. But you know, if there's an issue in the application, they open a ticket with support. Support goes through that triage process, determines if it needs to go to product development or to the cloud team for investigation. And then, you know, all three teams collaborate when necessary, or two teams collaborate when necessary. So if there's a problem, I'm not going to say, hey, can I get your IT guy on the line? Can you do this? The only time I'm going to do that is if they say there's a network problem or a performance problem, and I've proved out that my environment is not the culprit. Then I'll say, hey, I'll need for your IT team to take a look at your desktop or whatever the case might be.
One place where you still see your IT resources like conversion, integration, and still getting information out of your systems. It's really amazing, you know, all the builds, it's calling up so service pack install is a collaborative exercise.
Service pack is, so the coordination of that activity in terms of what to expect to be new, doing any testing will happen with the services team and your team. And then when it's actually time to implement it, it'll be the services team and my team. So your team, technically, they know I exist, but they don't know anything about me. And if they do, there's like a problem. It's like, why are you calling me? You should be calling support.
It sounds very much like it's a hosting relationship with your separate services relationship.
I hate the term hosting. Like, I'm not a data center. We do so much more than a data center. No, so very good question. I think when we talk about language, to me, SaaS is how are you delivering the application to whoever is consuming it, right? So when we say cloud, when we say SaaS, there's all these great technical terms to describe what we're doing. Model N is truly saying, here's the URL, use the application. Now, does it mean that you can go into the UI and do the integration that you want and things of that nature today? No, but it is still a complete service that we're delivering to you in the sense of the application. Is it a true multi-tenant and you can't touch anything and you have no access to anything? It's not that true to the letter. So. Yes, just a browser. Just log in with your browser and use the application. I'm running over time? You gotta be kidding me. I'm just kidding.
Just one last question.
Yes.
The process for, like today, if we find a bug in the system, we find it, we call Model N, they provide a patch, they let them know about it. In this, is it more proactive? Would you push forward and say, hey, we found these five bugs this week, we got patches for them, do you guys want to put them in?
So I would say that it's slightly more. I would say we're not at a stage yet where we're actually pushing a lot of things out that way, but I would say it's more. So today, let me give you a simple example. So with our application servers, they sit behind a load balancer. And we may have one application server that's crashing, and nobody knows about it, except us. So when we figure out what that is, we report it to product development and say, hey, this is a high priority issue, it needs to be fixed. We are going to be pushing you to take that fix. When we talk about application functionality, I think that you will get more proactive messages saying, hey, this is available, do you want to start taking a look at it, do you want to move forward with it, from the perspective of patches. So I do think that our cloud customers are taking advantage of that, just based on the number of service patches that we've deployed in the past year for our various customers. No. So connectivity is accessible over the internet. So VPN is only implemented if a customer says, you know, I don't want anybody touching my data. I only want people in my office location touching the data. That's the only time that we use that. And we have half of our customers do that, half of our customers go over the open internet just fine. Great questions. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you. And if you have any other thoughts, I'll be around for the next few minutes, and enjoy the rest of RAINMAKER.